Welcome to Lesson 1, Introductory to Coding Foundations. We're going to be working with, as you can see, Sprite Lab in the code.org website application. It's a completely free tool to access anytime, pretty much anywhere. Most schools support it. And so the first thing you need to do is obviously log into code.org. Once you're in there, click on the projects link in the top in the navigation here, and then you can either click on New Project and select Sprite Lab, or you can come down and scroll down and select under Start New Project, Sprite Lab. First thing we want to do is we want to rename this project. Click on the Rename button, and for this example, I'm going to call it L1 and then Interactive. You'll see why in a second. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my mouse over the three dots here and scale this to the right. Then I'm going to come over the toolbar blocks and click on World and add a set background. In other words, snap it right under here. I'm going to change this background to something back here. Let's do simple, something with a rainbow that stands out. Next, I'm going to come over to the blocks toolbar again and click on the sprites. So under the sprites, I'm going to say make new sprite at 200 by 200. I'm going to take that, I'm going to drag that in, and I'm going to change this to the dog. You can use any sprite you like, doesn't matter. Then to the right of this is the location block. Notice I can click on it and actually detach it. I'm going to keep it attached, and then to the right of the numbers 200 by 200, I'm going to click the pin icon right here. This will allow me to freely move the sprite anywhere I want on the screen. So I'm going to move the sprite over here, and then I'm going to come over to the text. I think it's actually, no, it's the world blocks again, and I'm going to add in a prompt. So it says prompt user for variable, and we're going to take that and we're going to snap that in. Now, if we see here, we see a text field that appeared on our canvas or stage, whichever you'd like to call that. And what we're going to do is we're going to add the text, what is your name? Question mark. And that appears. Now, if I run this, nothing will happen if I type in a name like Bob right now. Nothing happens. We actually want to capture this information, Bob, or whatever the name you type in, and have the sprite say it. So to do that, we need to come over here to these three question marks, which is a variables block, and what we're going to do is say that when we type something in, we want to assign that value to this thing called a variable. So it's basically a container that allows us to store data and then reuse it later on. We're going to click on the three dots. We're going to say rename all, and I'm going to call this anywhere from name. Let's call it name. Name works. Or yeah, you could also call it value, result, anything. But I'm going to call this name. I'm going to say name, and then even if I run it now, nothing will happen because we're not doing with this or doing anything with it at the moment. So if I type in again, Bob, nothing happens. The next thing we want to do is we want to add something called an event. So we want to say that when this happens, I want to trigger an action for the sprite to say something. So we can do that by coming over to the events toolbar, and we want to find the block that says when the sprite is clicked. Actually, no. What we want is we want when the variable is answered. In other words, when we get an answer or a value assigned to this, then we want to run something. So I'm going to take this and drag this over to the stage. Luckily for us, name is already selected. If something else was selected, you could come over to variables, find name, drag it, and snap it in. Now to get rid of a variable or any block, you can come over here, hold on to it, and notice that the trash can automates a little animation feature, and delete that. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to come over to sprites, and we're going to have it say something. We're going to look for the sprite block that says sprite says. Let's see. There it is. We don't want this one. This one only allows us to say one thing, but let's try that out right now. Let's say we need also make sure you change it to the sprite that you want it to speak. Say hello world, and I'm going to turn it into something like hi. So I can come here and run this and say John. It says hi. But what if we wanted to say something like hi John? Well, to do that, we need a different block. Let's go back over to the sprites, find a similar one, but what the one we want here is the sprite says whatever the block is for a set number of seconds. So we're going to take that, drag that in, change our sprite correctly again. Now let's test this out. So right now it's going to say hello world if I say Fred. All right, hello world. We want it to say hi followed by our name. So I'll come over to the text blocks, click on that, and we'll get this one right here, which has double connectors. So it has a connector on the left side and a connector on the right. Let's do something like hi, space. Make sure you add that space in there. Go to your variables, and then find the variable block for name. We're going to take that and drag that in. Now, if I run this and I type something like Fred, it says hi Fred. There you go. Now, let's say we wanted to simulate the idea of us actually having a conversation with somebody else. Or let's say we have two sprites on here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do and click on is the sprites block, and I'm going to add in another sprite. So I'm going to take this other sprite. Let's reset that. I'm going to take this other sprite. I'm going to pop it over here, and we'll simulate the idea that this sprite is talking to this sprite using a text input. So what we need to do is we need to first add some text for this to say something initially. So we'll come over to Sprites, and you can do the 4 seconds or the regular, and we'll come over here and pop that under there. We'll say something like, what's on your mind? Let's move this event over here, and I'm going to click on the name and say rename the name to response. So rename. Notice it all gets renamed. Now this time, I don't want extra text here. Instead, I just want this block. So I'm going to click it, take it off, get rid of the hi block, put this over here. And now, when I click run, it says, what's on your mind? And I can say something like, just enjoying the weather. And it looks like they're having a conversation.